Another way of understanding that we are meaning-making creatures is to say that we are always interpreting. We're interpreters in the human journey. So let me explain what I mean by this. Imagine I asked you, what is the purpose of life? What would you say? Now, the meaning you probably have, for example, about the purpose of life, is probably at two levels. You probably have some conscious thoughts about this, and you probably have some understanding of this at the subconscious level that actually hasn't been articulated. Now imagine I walked you through an exercise. I did ask you to do a few things. First, I asked you to journal. Write down what does it mean to be, what is the purpose of life, pardon me. Second thing is, I gave you a text, and I asked you to read a text that's someone's perspective on the purpose of life. And then the third thing is, I asked you to chat with someone who's also read the same text and done the same journaling to discuss what the purpose of life is. Notice what's happening in that journey. When I first ask you, you're probably wondering, oh my goodness, I don't know exactly what the purpose of life is. You start to journal. You start to put into words your understanding. You're interpreting yourself and starting to articulate what the purpose of life is. Then you read the passage I've given you. So you're reading it and you're starting to make sense of other people's words in trying to understand what the purpose of life is. You're interpreting words in this case from other people that have been written. And then you have a conversation with someone who's also gone through a similar experience. Now what's happening? You're interpreting that other person's perspective as they're sharing it with you in an interactive experience. Right? If you went through these steps, you started to think about it, you journaled, you read, and then you talked to someone, your own specific perspective about the purpose of life is evolving as you interpret the different things that we encounter every day. So human beings are interpreting creatures. We're always trying to make sense of the things around us that come at us in different forms as we arrive at our initial understanding that we bring to an experience about what's going on. So the process of interpretation, in a way, is quite simple. We come in with a pre-developed, a pre-existing understanding of reality. We encounter experience. We have new knowledge that comes in about what's important, about what's going on in the world, about what's happening around us. And those two things combined in some ways, they collide, and then we emerge with a new understanding, right? So that's kind of what the basic process of interpretation looks like. What's important to note is that our interpretation is always limited. Whatever our understanding in any given moment, no matter how much experience we've had, it's always going to be limited because we've only improved our understanding to the extent that our new experience has allowed. But we haven't seen all of the different ranges of experience or all of the different perspectives. So we've simply grown from our situated perspective. So if you're that nurse on that unit and you're learning better about how mental health issues are in this patient manifest, or you're learning about how to work with this particular doctor, you came into that with a certain understanding of how to work with doctors, how to work with patients, it's growing based on your experience, it's still going to be limited. And then the other thing to notice about our perspectives is that they're always biased, because we confront so much information all of the time, and we have to make quick choices often. So we have to process, we have to interpret quickly, and then do our best, but the way we do it leads to bias. So for example, a couple of types of bias that it might be useful to look at. When we've got lots of information to process, we often are victims of confirmation bias. Where I've got so much information, what information do I choose? I'm inclined to choose that information that already reinforces my understanding of the world, even though that may not be well justified. Or I have to make a really quick decision, and I'm guilty of something called sunk costs bias. You know what? I'm facing a hard choice. I've already invested so much in this. it would take a huge amount of effort to change direction, even though I might think that's the right thing to do. So I'm just going to press on. I'm just going to keep going. Or there's something called recency bias, where I'm confronted with all kinds of information. Some of it is competing. I can't keep it all in my mind. So what do? I hang on to the last bit of information that I heard, right? We're not all going to be guilty about all of these biases all the time, but the point is that our human minds are limited, and our ability to interpret is similarly limited. And so there are things that we do to get by in the world that sometimes doesn't leave us with the most complete or well-justified perspective. All this to say that we have to take our own perspectives with a little bit of humility.